Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Rolling Stories, the HR podcast brought to you by Rolling Arrays. Imagine spending an entire year saying yes, agreeing to not just trivial things, but also to things that frighten you. Well, that was what award-winning creator, producer, and writer Shonda Rhimes did precisely. In her best-selling book, Year of Yes, Rhimes explained that it all started when her sister said just 6 words to her at Thanksgiving. You never say yes to anything. As a self-described introvert, those words give Rhimes pause and led to a personal challenge. So for one whole year, she would say yes to all the things that scared her. And she mentioned this in a moving TED Talk on the same topic. And anything that made her nervous, took her out of her comfort zone, she forced herself to say yes to. And crazy thing happened. The very act of doing the thing that scared her undid the fear, made it not scary. So her fear of public speaking, social anxiety, poof, all gone. Amazing, just with the power of one word. Virgin Group founder Sir Richard Branson is also a big fan of saying yes. In fact, so much within the company, he has a nickname called Dr. Yes. Now, while you might not be ready to dedicate an entire year to saying yes or to adopt a new nickname, saying yes is one of the best decisions you possibly could make for your career. And joining me today to discuss this is Narelle, CHRO at Kantar, the world's leading marketing data and analytics company. Hi Narelle, welcome to the show.
Hi Adrian, delighted to be here. And yes, it is an amazing book. Glad to hear.
For the listeners who may not be familiar with who you are and what you do, could you do a quick introduction?
I can. So Narelle Burke, CHRO for Kantar Insights, and I also lead Global Consulting as well. And that essentially means I'm responsible for the overall people agenda at Kantar across the entire life cycle. So it's everything from how we bring people on to how we develop and grow them, to how we design organizations, right through to employee experience. So it's absolutely exciting, Adrian. I love it.
And I'm very certain saying yes has a huge part to play in this. So let's jump straight in to understand from you about your experience in saying yes. Firstly, how did that come about? Is there an epiphany moment that made you realize you should say yes to more?
Yeah, so I think it was just a matter of being, so when I actually stood back from it, saying yes has come from an early age. So I think what most people will find about me is I have a high risk tolerance and I have a low sense of fear. I get anxiety and I get nervous like everyone else, and you get those butterflies in your belly. But typically, if there was going to be trouble or someone was going to be leading something, I think I've been doing that since I was very, very little. So I've got an adventurous spirit. I love to experience everything life has to offer, and I think just as you get older, I think sometimes we lose that because of fear and experiences and that side of things. And what I've tried to do is go to, why is that making me nervous? Why is that making me anxious? Does it feel like a good idea? I've made some really stupid decisions, Adrian, as you go through, as we all do. But I think once you overcome the fear, you come out on the outside of it. The worst case scenario is not that bad unless you do something really stupid. You get to experience and explore a lot of what life has to offer.
And I think that's the key thing, right? People are just so fearful of the worst case scenario. So let's jump into the stupid ones that you've made and let's get it out of the way. So what are some of the stupid things that actually you said yes to, and what exactly happened after that?
So I think I'll give you a couple of personal experiences, and then I'll give you some work experiences. So from a personal perspective, putting your personal safety at risk. So I would say things like drinking and being out and not being aware of your surroundings, or getting into a car with drivers you don't know, or anything where you go, why don't we hitchhike across, a state or country or somewhere else? So I think there's been some decisions where you've gone ahead and done them, and I have, and my sisters have as well. And you look back at it and you go, we were incredibly lucky and incredibly fortunate. And they're the times when, that fear really should kick in. Like it should kick in. Not a good idea. You really shouldn't do that. So I think, but what it did teach me is, I remember my dad saying to me, think before you act. And so it wasn't about not taking chances and risks. It was think through the consequences, think through your actions, and make an informed decision rather than going with the moment. And I think that's an important one for anyone out there, whether it's peer pressure or whether you're being asked to do stuff, is just always think before you act. So I do think there are times when saying yes might not be the right thing. It might be a conditional yes. When I actually think about work, the majority of times it has worked out okay for me. But there are probably 2 moments which, if I think back, would I have still have said yes? And the answer is yes. But was it really painful and hard? Yes. So I'll give you 2 examples. So I worked in corporate Australia, and probably about, sort of 5 to 6 years into my experience. And I was known as someone who gets stuff done. So I can navigate complexity, get stuff done, deliver on time. And when you're younger, you can be quite naive about how you get results done. But I ended up on 2 projects, 2 separate incidences. And one of the projects was going into compensation and benefit. And believe me, I'm not an expert. I never want to work in that area. I admire people who do. But I decided to take on a project in Comp and Ben, which was looking at a HRIS system rollout. Like, this is decades ago. And I went into it very naive, went into it thinking you can deliver it and it's just a matter of, being able to manage the project. And it was quite possibly the worst 4 months of my life. It was under budget, it was under scope, the team was burnt out, the management support, they'd rolled it out once and it had failed, the employees didn't believe in it. And we managed to get it through, but it was incredibly painful. And it was also one of the reasons why I decided to move outside of Australia. It just completely burnt me out. It was the thankless task that no one wanted to do. And I think I naively stepped into it going, sure, why not? Like, you can deliver on this. And it was one of those moments where I go, when you do say yes, do you have the support, the resources and the leadership around you and the team around you to comfortably say yes and take those risks? And so that was one learning. And then the second one, which was actually, it was a lot of learning in this company. The second one was in the same company when I was in my mid-20s, and I'd been asked to lead a national project. It was a very low margin of error in terms of the financials and what we had to roll out. And again, I was asked to lead the project. So I had a team of about 30 people who were required to help support that. And at that time, it is fair to say that my personal effectiveness and my time management and my priority management isn't what it is now, Adrian. And I got really burnt. So we delivered it. It was painful. There was cost overruns. Stakeholder feedback wasn't great. We managed to get it through, but it wasn't through my leadership that it got through. It was actually the support around me that helped to do that. But what I will say is that lesson on that particular project, which nearly created an early career failure, led to me going, right, I'm not on top of my time. I don't understand how to prioritize. I'm struggling to delegate work and manage it effectively. I have to learn from this. It's a career staller if I don't get it right. And from there, went on time management courses, learned how to prioritize, getting things done. I use Michael Hyatt now, and I am a student of productivity to the point where I'm now looked at as an expert in it. But saying yes was really painful. But the learning outside of it, if you're willing to reflect, look at where you failed and where you can grow and develop, I think sometimes those experiences are also valuable as well. Not enjoyable, but valuable.
So ultimately, even though these 2 might be things that you wouldn't want to revisit in any way, but there are still lessons. There are still lessons that you derive from it. And I like what you ended with. You reminded me of this scene in one of the Avengers movies where Loki mentioned, despite all the failures he encountered, experience is experience. So ultimately, you still learn something. But I would be interested to learn, just after this couple of bad encounters, did it put a dent in your confidence to perhaps saying yes to other stuff along the way in a short period of time?
Absolutely. Like, so people who meet me, you're confident and you get on and you're like, really broken inside now. So, I'd had a great track record. I'd been progressing well. I was known as someone who could get things done and an up and coming talent. And then to be told, you know what, this is a borderline, this could have gone really, really badly. And you're going, that doesn't feel good at all. And so my confidence did take a hit to the point where I actually moved outside of Australia. I came out of it and I just thought, you put everything into something, you do your best and you come out and you almost fail. And that has a real impact on your confidence and self-esteem. And so I pretty much ran away. I said yes to something else, but it was one of those life-defining moments, and there was other stuff happening in my personal life, but I came to a point where I went, you know what? I hate the corporate world. This is not what I want to do. I want to go and do something else. But yes, my confidence took a massive hit.
Having said that, I truly understand how moving to a new place, a new country may help to rebalance things. But I would also believe most of our listeners may not have the opportunity or even the luxury to do so. With all the experience that you have right now, outside of moving away from a country, are there anything that you believe one can do to regain those bite-sized confidence in order to get back to equilibrium?
So you're saying you can't run away all the time, Adrian? Yes.
Yeah.
So I think what it's really important to take lessons from it. So I didn't just run away. It was, it was a combination of events. And what I stepped back and reevaluated was, am I still enjoying what I'm doing? Am I enjoying the type of work that I'm doing? I looked at the lessons learned and I went through I've got a coach and went through a range of coaching sessions to really understand what happened, what were the major triggers, what can I learn from this? So I did go through a reflective process and understanding where are my strengths, where are my development areas? If I want to continue to grow, what are the things that I need to take away and what's the plan around that? So there was, and not being flippant, there was a big piece of learning around that. And I think for anyone that goes through a failure, if you want to learn and grow, you need to step back and reflect, understand yourself, understand, what you need around you to be at your best. And so there was a piece there. But what I will say is at times when you're in roles like that, you think the world is ending. This is your world. And someone has come in and said, yeah, it's not quite the world as you see it. And so I do think there is value in taking a step back and gaining some perspective. Now, whether that's a micro break, whether that is taking some leave and stepping away from it, and we know that can create a different perspective, or whether it is actually reevaluating what you want to do and where you want to be. So I do think after a major, after when you do have your success called into question and you are asked to step back and reflect, taking time out to get perspective, I think is really, really important. It just so happened that my perspective was across the other side of the ocean.
Now, I'd like to draw to perhaps some of the listeners out there, and for many people that I also personally know, saying yes to all these kind of opportunities may not seem like a natural thing to them. Perhaps in a more conservative society like Singapore, where we tend to weigh too much onto options, and usually it's just a very long no after a while, and everything just becomes a no eventually. Based on your observation, and given that you have been this part of the world for some time, what do you think are some of the common reasons that people might hesitate to say yes to opportunities?
So I think, so my understanding of it, and also just reflecting on my own experiences, fear. So it is a fear of the unknown, what could happen, what could go wrong. And so I think when you're evaluating decisions that have risk in them, like the decisions, whether it's changing job, careers, countries, getting married, whatever it might be, you're weighing up the risk, which automatically comes with what is the worst that can happen? What is it that I'm worried about or scared about or anxious about? And it comes back to fear and that fear of what could happen. And so my take on it is flip that. And, yes, if you've got a mortgage and kids and it's a high risk situation and you've got caring responsibilities, you might put a greater weight on those areas. But on the flip side, what's the potential and the opportunity? What could come out of it? What could you learn? What could you experience? And working through that. And I think if you have that, that anxiety in you, exploring why. Where is it coming from? Is it a fear of failure? Is it a fear of letting your family down? Is it a fear of moving countries and not knowing whether it's going to be okay? Where is that fear coming from? Because I think one of the worst things that can happen is fear is not real. It's an imagined situation. So it's not real. It feels real, but it is not real. And so if you can go to what is causing that and what is generating it and actually go, is my fear real? Or am I, making those stories up in my head around what the worst case scenario is? And I think I think what's worked for me, and I think what can work, particularly in this region, is talk to people who know you, who you trust, who can give you a sounding board and who can help you out. I think it's really important to have those people that you can rely on, who you can call on, who will go, this is what I value about you. This is where I see the potential issues. Do you feel comfortable in dealing with those? So if you are moving to a new country, taking on a new role in a new industry, in a new area of specialization, that's high risk. Have a look at it. Are you able to actually navigate that? Moving countries when you're working on the same clients in the same industry in the same company, it's still risky, but the risk profile is lower because you have more of the things that you need. So I think talking to people around you that can help you. And the other thing I will say is saying yes doesn't mean you're not worried or scared. So I'm always worried. What if I get it wrong? What if I fail? What if I have no money? What if I lose my job? All of those things come into play. So it's not that I don't feel anxious and have that anxiety and that fear, but I think it's the way that you work through it. And the one other thing that I'll mention, Adrian, is, and people won't know this about me, but I will quite often tell people why I'm not qualified to do something. So while I have said yes, I will also go, look, this is really interesting. I don't think I'm qualified. These are the things that I see that is a gap. And I think, these people are better suited to do it. I think I can do this part, but I don't think I'd be great at that. And what I've been really fortunate with is I've had people who are sponsors around me who have said, we will be there to support you. We can help you with these areas. You need the right team around you. This is where we see your strengths, and this is what you would need to round out going into it. So I've gone through a few things there, but I think, fear and anxiety feels real, but it's not. Work through and understand what's driving it. And is it yourself holding it back of the fear of the unknown that will never happen, or is there real issues there? Have a group of people around you that you can talk to who can give you really wise counsel, because that sounding board is helpful. And if you're in a company and you're wanting to grow, have people that are invested in you who can sponsor you when you do take on something new and you are concerned whether you're going to be okay in it or not.
You mentioned also earlier on when you are at perhaps an earlier life stage, of course, you have more freedom in selecting the things that you want to do and to be more exploratory. Because I do recall someone saying before 40 years old, and 40 years old is really an arbitrary term, before 40 you should say yes to 90% of the things that come along your way. But after 40, you should say no to 90% of the things that come your way. So do you think different life stage may mean saying lesser yes?
It depends. So do I still say yes to 90% of things? Yes, I do. But my situation and circumstance is different to other people. I've got a husband. He fully supports me and wherever I want to go, 24 hours notice, we can be anywhere in the world. That is a freedom. We don't have kids. We live in Singapore, which is easy to, relocate and do other things. So I think it comes back to you really need to understand what's important in your life and the degree of risk that you're willing to take around that. And understand what are the right opportunities that help you to get to where you're going and what are those that are going to get in the way. So if I think about early 20s, it was about travel and exploration. Anything that got me closer to doing that, whether it was joining a cruise line or traveling around different parts of the world, was amazing. 30s was about accelerating my career. So it was about following where those opportunities came, whichever part of the world that it came in. In my 50s, which I'm not there yet, but my 50s is going to be, about options that help me to retire on an island somewhere in Greece or Spain, Adrian. So I think you need to evaluate the life stage that you're at, understand your family and the support that you have around you. Where are you prepared to take risks? And say yes when it gets you closer to where you want to go and what you want to be doing. But I would still say 90% yes to most things now, even over 40.
Right. And before we let you go, are there any parting shot or advice that you have for someone who wants to say yes to more opportunities in their life or career, but still struggle to?
I think go back into the heart of who you are. Why are you, is it fear that's holding you back? What is holding you back? And there may be some real issues. There might be some stuff around family and it's not the right time. And that is okay to say no. If it's not right for you, then absolutely say no. But make an informed decision on that. Don't make it based on fear. And if there is fear there, work through it. Is it real or is it in your head? Is it something that you think can go wrong that has absolutely no probability of going wrong at all? And weigh that up. I think when I look back on my career, it looks like a beautiful path. When I was looking forward, it was messy. And so I think the other thing to help you make decisions around this is when you look forward 5, 10 or 15 years, what are you going to be doing? What are the types of people you want around you? What's the type of work you want to be doing? What are the types of experiences that you want to have had in your life? And that vision around, where you want to be, and it doesn't have to be anything detailed, Adrian, but it's that ability to picture a future. And then what you can do is work backwards from that and go, why don't I say yes to more of the things that help me get closer to that vision of the future? So if I want to travel, why don't I say yes to travel? If I want to be living in a particular area, why don't I say yes to that? If I want to be working in a startup, how can I get experiences around that? And then outside of that, make sure you surround yourself with people who can give you really good counsel and help you work through the pros and cons of saying yes. But at the heart of it, just be brave. An unfulfilled and unlived potential is far worse than anything that can go wrong. This is not life and death decision. They're just choices and options.
And with that, thank you so much for coming onto the show to share more with us why saying yes is so important. And just to test the hypothesis, will you say yes if I were to invite you onto the show again?
Yes, Adrian, absolutely.
Thank you so much.